you live from the Hellmouth. It's the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your co-host Payne,
I'm Bill.
and welcome to episode 50.
Hey, that means
Bill,
the
we have
show is
finally reached the
technically
pinnacle of our podcasting efforts.
really. I think the show is older than we are now. Is that the goal?
I didn't think we would make it this far, especially after like episode 7 or 8, where I was ready to rip your face off.
Well, we've made it 30 years, even though technically I've wanted to rip your face off many of those times too. So I don't see why that would change anything.
I know, but it seemed like it amped up. I have to actually sit here and listen to your opinions. And sometimes I think through this type of medium, it just infuriated me. But you know what? This has actually made me a better person doing this with you.
Has it? Has it? Oh, that's good. Somebody needed to make you a better person, so I'm glad I
Yeah,
have.
it's allowed me to open my mind to other people's opinions, even though they're idiots.
Well, I'm glad to be of service.
You know, I had my nephew up this weekend, and this is why we're starting a little bit behind schedule. So I
Yes.
asked him, like, does he listen to our podcast? And being the snarky 13-year-old, he said, nope, I don't. And I proceeded to say, well, that hurts my feelings. But since you listen to other podcasts, do you have any, like opinions as to how we should be doing? Like, should we add more music, more special effects? And he said no. He likes our stripped down version of what we do.
But he doesn't listen, so how does he know?
Well, I think he was just saying that just to hurt my feelings because I was knocking him around a little bit.
Oh
So
boy, did things get physical again?
a little bit, a
Okay,
little bit.
all
I mean,
right.
that's what I do. I'm a Neanderthal uncle.
Okay.
Bill, we've got a lot to discuss. Can I tell you what I did with my nephew real quick, though?
Sure.
Did I tell you that he reintroduced me to Rick and Morty? Um, have you heard of Rick and Morty?
Um, I think I have heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is. It's a cartoon, I assume.
Yeah, it's sort of like in the vein of South Park and Family Guy type of thing. Comes on 11:30s on Sundays. I think the premiere episode of the third season comes on tonight, 11:30. Even though I believe they already released that episode on April Fool's Day of this year. Either way, it's one of my new favorite shows.
Okay. Why?
It's it's just irreverent, and it kind of fits my sort of adolescent type of humor on occasion. Um, it was fun. So we watched a few of his shows. We also saw Split by our man M Night Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Well, that seems appropriate for a 13-year-old.
He's 13, and I think it was PG-13.
Pretty sure it's R.
I said the same thing. I go, I think this is R. It came up PG-13. Either way, that's what uncles do, right? We
Yes,
show
they warp
our
their nephews or nieces' reality of, the world by making them, see the seedy underbelly of all existence. Absolutely.
I don't know if I look at it that way, but I mean,
If I was to try to show your nephew Split, you'd look at me like I had three heads. You'd be like, that is highly inappropriate.
you know what? You're absolutely right. But it comes from me, so it's different. I'm his uncle. I'm his blood. So it's different.
Okay. So did he like the movie Split? First of all, wait. Did he watch Unbreakable before Split? Has he seen Unbreakable at some point before Split?
No, he did not. He did not.
So
And
then the
he has
whole
never
ending is completely wasted on him because he doesn't have any.
absolutely. The whole ending is absolutely wasted. And in fact, that was his first M Night movie he's ever seen.
Okay.
And the reason why I think with The Sixth Sense, I think he's wanted to watch it, but apparently everybody has spoiled the ending for him, which has obviously pushed him off from seeing The Sixth Sense. So, um,
So
By the way, when he was up here, it was sort of like having a mini Bill up here with me.
why is that?
Um, because every time I suggested something to him, he'd look at me like I had three heads. I'd be like, "Let's go to the video store." The first thing he would say to me goes, "You still have those up here?"
Family
So
Video, they are holding strong.
I should get them to sponsor us. Anyway, we watched Split. He enjoyed it. I watched it again. Obviously, it still holds up for me. I'm looking forward to seeing the third one in the trilogy, Glass. I
Did you
explained to
explain
him
to him
the
what the ending
ending.
meant?
What's that?
Did you explain to him what the ending means?
Yeah, and he's going to go back and watch Unbreakable now.
Okay.
And also, before we get into all the major news that's dropped over the past 2 weeks, I also saw the movie Kong.
And
I gave it 1 star, Bill, on Netflix. 1 star.
awfully rough.
And I wanted to mention something to you. I know it's our 50th show here, and so I don't want to start off by getting under your skin. But within
Okay.
the first 3 minutes of watching Kong, my nephew just looks at me and he goes, "This is terrible acting. Terrible acting." And I go, "You know what? I get it." And then he sits there, he goes, "Do you mind if I talk throughout this movie?" I go, "No, not a problem." He could tell me exactly, you know what's going to happen right now. And I go, I know. The kid is 13. He's watched movies most of his life here, and he sees where all these things are coming from, which I think is a Hollywood problem, which I say over and over again, that some of these films are just too predictable, too bland. But I'm not going to start off the show like that. Kong was just like that. It was too predictable. It was it was unoriginal. It just fell flat in a lot of different categories.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it's but what do I know? It made over $100 million if I recall.
I didn't see it, so I don't really have a
It,
horse
it,
in
it, it was really hard for me because I have to mention this one scene with obviously it stars Captain Marvel Brie Larson, which my nephew looked at me like, "Is that really Captain Marvel?" He didn't seem too pleased. And it starred Tom Hiddleston. What's his name? Hiddlesticks?
Tom Hiddleston.
Whatever. He obviously played the main guy out there with the muscle shirt on and with the side gun. He was the tracker on the island. The scene, how we get introduced to Tom's character, is fascinating because it shows up with John Goodman walking into a bar. And as John Goodman walks into a bar, Tom gets into a fight with the locals right at that exact time at the pool table, to where he's able to knock out one guy and sense another guy coming from him behind a knife. So he takes them both out, takes a swig of beer, and then John Goodman looks at him and goes, "We need somebody like you on our trip. We need your services." And I go, we've not seen this scene a million times? I just, who's the director of Kong, Bill?
I don't know, actually.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point.
Well, maybe we should look it up.
I'm looking it up right now because it is Jordan Bog Roberts.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm done. I'm done. How are you? You
I'm
don't seem to be operating on all cylinders for our 50th show.
I just woke up from a nap, so I'm just trying to re-assimilate myself to the world.
Is this how you prepare for one of our biggest days ever?
It's not really our biggest day ever. I mean, it's our 50th show, but um, it's actually closer to our second anniversary, which is more important to me, I think, than 50 shows. So we've been doing the show for 2 years, almost. Next week.
Really? It's 2 years? Wow.
I know.
All right. I need you to eat your microphone. I need you to act like your microphone is a cupcake and you love cupcakes, and I need you to eat it.
Okay, I'm eating my mic. Is that better?
That is. Thank you. All right. So we've been off for a couple weeks, and of course, you wanted to do the show um, like last week because that's when all the news dropped. Everything
Well,
was dropping. When I was going to the gym, people were coming up to me, the nerds, which I was trying to like shoo away, wanting to talk about all the things that came out over these past couple weeks. Are you ready to get into all that?
I am. This summer's big conventions, there were two of them this year, so that was kind of cool. Next year there will only be one because there's no Star Wars convention next year either, which was in April this year, but next year there won't be one at all. And next year there's no D23 convention because it's only every other year. So next year it'll only be San Diego Comic Con. But this year we had D23 and Comic Con back to back. So that was kind of cool because it gave us a lot of information all at once, which I kind of thought was really neat. But we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 11 trailers come out in those 2 weeks. And then also lots of photos and behind the scenes stuff. So it was kind of cool. What do you want to start with? You want to start with Justice League?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
While you sprinkle in the San Diego comic news and all the trailers and all the other interesting tidbits that came out, can I sprinkle in some of the other general news that came out too?
Sure. That's fine.
Okay, we'll go tick for tack.
That'll work for me.
All right, go for it. What do you want to start with? You said Justice League?
Sure.
What
Uh,
happened with Justice League? Drop the bomb on them.
Trailer released at Saturday last weekend at Comic Con. There was a big panel for Warner Brothers and DC, which they announced a bunch of movies for the schedule that they're going to be coming out with, which includes Shazam, which of course we already knew. They gave us a title for Flash, the Flash movie. It's going to be Flashpoint, which I'm sure you know from the animated movie, probably the comic. Green Lantern Corps. Um, I mean, some of these we already knew, but these were like reconfirming. Gotham City Sirens, Batgirl, Wonder Woman 2 got a release date, which is December 13th, 2019. And the Batman. I think that was pretty much the big announcements as far as DC dates or movies that they're coming up with. Um, which one of those are you excited about or looking forward to? The Batman, I would assume.
Oh, I kind of thought we were talking about Justice League, but I guess you're just all over the damn place, huh?
Well, hey, why
This is
not?
what we're doing. Well, let me write them down. All the lists that you
Because you weren't even
said.
listening, were you?
What?
You weren't even listening, were you?
I was listening,
Okay.
but I was sort of going down another path. But no matter, no matter. What am I most excited about? Excited about out of the DC news that dropped? I have to admit, I'm excited about the Justice League.
Well, yeah, duh. But outside of the Justice League, there's all these other movies that they're going to come out with now too, which they were, but now, like I said, they've got some release dates and a little bit more firming up of the news. Are you
I
excited for Wonder
got you.
Woman 2?
You're still one of those people that even though we know that it's supposed to be coming out, you really want a date on there. So you want a commitment. You want a contract from
Yeah,
me.
I mean, it kind of makes it a little bit more real for me when you come up with like,
Okay. Well, obviously, as you already said it once, it's the Batman.
right. Okay.
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 I mean, is there anything else? I would have taken my nephew to see War of the Planet of the Apes to
But
show what a badass Matt Reeves is as a director. But sadly enough, he still hasn't seen the first two Planet of the Apes movies, so it would have been a waste. But in the interim, I have no doubt that this Batman with Matt Reeves is really going to blow it out of the water.
okay.
He's bringing in this writer from Planet of the Apes, I think, which will add a whole different sort of element that's a little bit more realistic for me. Um, so Yeah, it's the Batman.
Okay.
But filming doesn't start for a while, right?
Well, I don't think it's next, so I think they're probably still. I mean, he just finished releasing War of the Planet of the Apes, so I think he's probably just now getting into it.
Which is odd. I kind of hope that Ben Affleck stays out of trouble till then. I mean, that's really the goal.
Well, again, at the convention this weekend or last weekend, there was all these rumors again that Ben Affleck is dropping out and he's, sayonaraing to the DC universe yet again. This is a rumor that's been going around since last spring. And Ben Affleck came out at the panel and said, basically Batman is the role of a lifetime. I'd be insane not to want to do it. So yes, I'm staying in. Whether that's true or not, whether that's just PR that he's trying to spout for, publicity sake or whatever. I mean, I kind of tend to believe him, but then again, his life is a little bit chaotic right now with his divorce and everything. So who knows? And even if he was lying, we would never know until it's upon us. So I hope he
You
stays
know
too.
how you know how I feel about this. I mean, just for the little bit of background, we all these stories were dropping here that Ben was. I guess you could. Is it fair to say it might be the rumor mill?
Yeah,
It was churning out that Ben is not very happy and that he won't be long for the DC world. Now, I said for myself after hearing this rumors, I feel like there's a grain of truth to this because if you look at the history of this, the man was he had a bomb. He had a bomb. Live by Night, the movie that nobody went and saw, and then he was supposed to be directing the Batman movie, and he had wrote a script. Then all of a sudden, after Live by Night bombed, he was taking off the director's chair of the Batman movie, which, by the way, we talked about on this show. Which you're saying like, if we give you all this money, we're a little bit worried about the product. Just look at Live by Night. And then to make things worse, Matt Reeves came on board as the director and threw out his script. Now, Ben Affleck is an Academy Award winner. He won for Argo, Good Will Hunting. He was the cat's meow after Argo. I feel like there's an ego issue and that I don't know he can, I don't know, bend the knee to Matt Reeves and or Warner Brothers over this. But then again, you have come to me and I've actually heard from other people outside going, money talks and bullshit walks. And what has been over 40 years of age?
correct. I don't know how old, but I think he's like mid 40s.
Okay, so in other words, he might not get another paycheck like this, so he better follow Robert Downey Jr.'s lead and take all the cash he can from this whole thing. I don't, you know what? I'm still of the camp that I don't trust him. And I think one of the biggest problems with the DC world, Warner Brothers, is there's always some sort of uncertainty, our directors dropping off, are not having some sort of direction. And this seems a little bit different. They just don't seem to have a clear path, even though they have some success from Wonder Woman. But the Ben Affleck thing does kind of concern me. It doesn't, it should be smooth sailing for them after the Wonder Woman thing. But I don't know. It causes me a moment of pause to trust my franchise to him at this point.
I'm going to take his word for it. Like I said, I tend to believe that he's sincere when he says that Batman is the role of a lifetime. It actually probably is. And again, at a man of a certain age, and being with the industry being the way it is now, with blockbusters ruling the roost, I don't know if he's going to have that many more opportunities to be in a role that's quite that prominent. So I do think, I hope that he's sincere and that, he intends to continue on as the Batman. That being said, with the announcement of Flashpoint being one of the DC movies coming out, there's an opportunity for them, if they absolutely have to recast the part, to do so in a somewhat logical way, because the Flashpoint is all about changing up, like the X-Men movie did with Days of Future Past, changing up, the history of the universe so that, if they do have to choose a different Batman, then the Flashpoint might make that accessible for them to do without jarring their cinematic universe too badly. So I
Well,
wanted to, but if the man
what are
is
you most excited about?
um, I'm interested in all of them. Obviously, I'm curious to see if they can make Shazam work. I think it's kind of outside of the way that they've sort of done their universe so far. It's kind of different. The kid that turns into the man when he says the word Shazam. I'm curious to see if that could work. Not that Shazam is some kind of like awesome superhero or that I have some kind of like wonderful love for that character, but as far as like stuff that we haven't seen already, I think that's an interesting concept to see if they can pull it off.
The Shazam thing is sort of curious because I don't have like a strong feeling for wanting a Shazam movie. I'm more interested in the Black Adam movie with like The Rock.
Right.
That's piqued up my ears a little bit. But you're right. It's hard for me to picture how the Shazam would look on a movie screen. And it also opens up the opportunity for things that I hate, obviously, which is going to be a kid actor running around being immature, who's then giving the powers of a god, but still maybe has the maturity of a 13-year-old. It's going to lead to a lot of frustrating things and a lot of frustrating situations. And I just don't know if that's some sort of road I want to go down. Like, I didn't really experience that with the Spider Man Homecoming film. Like, they kind of stayed away from those sort of like tropes or cliches. A lot of things he got involved seemed natural for me in that movie. Um, I don't know if I trust them to do something like that
If you
with
honestly want
Shazam.
what I'm most looking forward to movie though, it's not anything that they even announced, which would be Man of Steel 2, featuring, hopefully Matthew Vaughn as director. So that's what I would really want to see the most. But they didn't announce that, so not that that's not going to happen, but it doesn't seem like it's an immediate priority for them, which is unfortunate because it's quite some time since Man of Steel came out, and it's still my favorite of the DC EU movies so
I
far.
need you to eat your microphone.
I'm eating it, eating it.
There is Flashpoint, and with Flashpoint, I've seen the animated movie more than a few times, and I feel like the Flashpoint story for the Flash is sort of like a Dark Phoenix story in the X-Men world. It's just like a high point for me, and I would hope they would try to stay true to the story. I don't know how they would do that. That's a movie that seems like it would cost over 160 million for them to do it right. I don't know if they're going to put that much into it because the Flashpoint story involves an alternate, timeline, a change in history. Um, but that could be such a cool story. It could be such a very cool story.
I just don't know if it needs to come this early in the universe. I think they're just really establishing their universe, and not even all the characters that are in the Justice League have gotten established yet. So I would kind of want to see at least us to get used to one universe with all the characters in it before they introduce a whole alternate universe storyline,
Isn't
which
that isn't that weird that I agree with you in that maybe Flashpoint seems like it would come later, like a if it was the Marvel equivalent, like a Phase 2, they
right,
would use Flashpoint as a way almost to reset things after a while,
right,
change it up. It does seem like it's awfully early for that. It's a wasted opportunity.
isn't out yet. The Flash hasn't been. Well, I guess if Flashpoint's the first one, again, I don't know if that is the story that I want to see the Flash introduced with. I would hope for them to do a lot of establishing movies first and then get to the Flashpoint. I don't know. But like I said, my personal preference wasn't even announced. So, But let's talk about what was announced, so we can talk about stuff that did come out. Justice League's trailer came out. I liked it a lot. The more I watch it, the more I like it. I'm not sure if I liked it as much as the first trailer, but I did like it a lot. And it, like I said, it does sort of like get me excited for the movie. There were some very cool scenes in there that you just, you know, I personally feel like I can't wait to see. There was a couple things in there that I thought seemed unnecessary and maybe derivative of other Warner Brothers movies, namely The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings movies with the Aquaman
Yep.
surfing on the body through the building at the end of the trailer, which is just like, I guess, are they trying to make him like Legolas? Because that's exactly what it reminded me of. But other than that, there was a lot of cool stuff in it.
That trailer, I argue about how these trailers, is designed to entice me to spend my $10 to go see the movie. I enjoyed the first trailer, but the second trailer knocked it out of the park for me. It knocked it out of the park. In light of the fact that they did copy the scene from Return of the King with Legolas sliding down the elephant. Instead of doing that, it was Aquaman. I'm not holding that against them, but it's almost like one of those things you can't go wrong with putting the Amazons in your trailer. Those bitches are badass. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it was smart of them to capitalize, obviously, and I'm sure they probably cut that trailer before Wonder Woman even came out. But I do think it, in a way, I like that it's sort of similar in the like epic mythology feeling of the Lord of the Rings. And that whole Amazon battle seems like the prequel to Lord of the Rings or the prologue to Lord of the Rings, and all that's cool. I just hope that they do more to distinguish it from being Lord of the Rings esque. Because, Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings, and I don't want it to be derivative of
Isn't
anything.
that where they got their Doomsday thing? Didn't they copy one of the cave trolls?
Well, it looks like they did cut and paste for the cave troll, but now that you bring that up, now that it sort of makes it even seem more like Lord of the Rings, now you're making me like it even less. Um, no, there was some great stuff in there. I mean, there's some really cool things in there with like the Flash and Wonder Woman and her sword and like the lightning effects of the Flash and all that stuff. That was great. Um, I do think it looks, epic.
You know, they didn't do themselves any harm, I feel, with this second trailer. I think it
I
would
think the ending. I
adds
think
more
the
to their
ending was.
momentum,
I'm
and
sorry.
that when November rolls around, I think it puts them in a good position to recoup their expenditures.
Well, it's going to be up in the air. It's one of those things where people, it's going to be iffy. If it's successful, people are going to say it piggybacked on Wonder Woman and that Joss Whedon is responsible. If it's not successful, people are going to say it piggybacked on Wonder Woman unsuccessfully, and Zack Snyder's at fault. So I think it's going to be a curious combination. In the end, I think 90% of the trailer was very, very good and got me hyped for the movie, and 10% of it felt like maybe they could perhaps try to be a little bit more original.
Speaking of Joss, I see a lot of rumor mills. I know that Zack Snyder and his wife are attending to the loss of their child. Is Joss now? I mean, is what's his name?
Zack Snyder?
Thank you. Zach's taken a huge back seat, understandably so. Is there a changing of the guard in the power structure over at Warner
Well, that's the
Brothers?
other. That's the other rumor. Is again and again. This has been dogging them since last spring or whenever Joss or Zack Snyder dropped out of the movie. Um, that Zack Snyder and his wife Deborah Snyder, who are producers of the whole DCEU, and they were sort of like the shepherds of the universe, maybe like the Kevin Feige's of the DC verse, are now going to be taking a backseat to Joss Whedon. I mean, that's not confirmed by the studio. In fact, the studio came out and said, we are appreciative of Zack Snyder's contributions and we expect him to stay on, for a while for our universe. So I don't know. We don't know. There's no confirmation of it, but that's the rumor that's out there. So
Okay. All right. Well, Justice League is looking like the movie of the year for me to see towards the second half.
Well,
Um,
it's certainly on my top two of the year that I've been looking forward to, but nothing can beat The Last Jedi. I'm sorry.
okay. What else
Uh,
has dropped?
well, then there was a poster. There were several posters actually for the Justice League that came out. Some of them look very similar to comic art, which I love when they do that. When they sort of take posters from inspiration from comic book art. Um, what did you think of the Justice League posters that came out with the trailer?
You, I'm more of a person who likes a poster with just almost like an individual striking a pose.
Well, that's
And
sort of what they were.
well, it was a static image of a face with a title on it. I don't think I was overwhelmed. Like, it's not a poster I would buy and frame and put on my wall. I didn't dislike it, but it's not something I would find to be frame worthy.
Well, it said "You can't save the world alone," which is the slogan on the poster, and they use like logos for each character for one of the words in the slogan. Um, and I guess it was like Alex Ross artwork, which I saw the original work, and it does look cool. And I like Alex Ross's stuff in general. Um, and I mean, as far as when you usually complain about like overcrowded posters, and I know a lot of people have problems with like the floating head posters and stuff like that. I thought it was very cool as like a teaser poster. It's not the final poster, so that's not a problem for me. But I thought it was cool. I would hang it up on my wall actually. I don't think I will because there's another poster that I liked a little bit more, but that's coming out before, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, I thought it was cool. I liked it. And I thought it was simple enough but gets the point across. So,
Hey,
um
that reminds me. What do we think of Jason Momoa in this trailer, this Justice League trailer? Just we're still talking about DC here. It's all still in the same subject here. But what do we think of his character right now?
I kind of get a vibe of like they're going for like a Dukes of Hazzard good old boy kind of I don't know. I want to say like I don't want it this to sound terrible, but like sort of like the swamp people. Um
Oh, you're talking Duck Dynasty?
yeah, sort of like good old boyish. I don't know. Then I think they're trying to make him like Legolas with the surfing body surfing thing. I don't know. I don't know. I hope he's more regal and less down home than he's come off as so far in the trailers that I've seen.
Oh, I like how you said that. More regal and less down home. Yeah, it's weird. I mean we're taking something from like a combination of 4 or 5 minutes worth of trailer here, but it does cause me a concern that his Aquaman seems to be having a lot of fun, which is something I appreciate, but also in the other sense is he's supposed to be the king of Atlantis, but yet he's rolling like he's just having a beer in a bowling alley, which I
Yeah,
guess some
a
people
lot of
might
like
like.
lying and it like I said, it sort of seems like the Dukes of Hazard when they get in the General Lee.
Do you think that they were running into a trouble of having too many stoic characters and that they needed somebody to be a little bit more rambunctious in the group outside of the Flash?
Yeah, I mean Superman is a little bit stodgy, obviously. Batman, is all like downward dog or like you know very like stoic too. I get it that they have to separate them from each other, and that's important. I just don't know how I feel about the whole like like I said, sort of good old boy vibe that I'm getting from it. I don't know if that's really gonna appeal to me, but I guess, we'll see when the movie comes out.
Okay,
Um,
continue on.
one that
Mush
came,
forward.
Thor Ragnarok had another trailer released, and a poster, which I love that poster, and that poster is going on my wall definitely. It's kind of like it looks like maybe Bollywood inspired. It's very like obviously colorful and all the characters are on it, but they sort of have their hands sort of stuck out like an Indian Bollywood movie. I like it. I think it's fun and different, and it looks makes me look like I want to see that movie. But anyway, that's just the poster. The trailer I thought was really cool too. Um, we get a little bit more of the Hulk, uh, Thor interaction, which is really the appeal of this movie. I like that they're sort of making the Hulk seem like some kind of like celebrity on this planet that he's gone to, that he ends up on, and him and Thor sort of have this like I don't know, frat brother kind of relationship, kind of. Um, I think it looks like fun and like it more of the what I want to say, Guardians vibe of the Marvel universe than like the Doctor Strange slash Black Panther vibe.
Um, this might be. What do we got left in our slate? We have Thor Ragnarok, Justice League, and The Last Jedi. Am I correct?
That's right.
I have to admit, I know this is three that we're going to see together, but Thor Ragnarok has to be in the bottom for me. I mean, it's only out of three, but it's just I am not excited to see Thor Ragnarok. I'm actually scared to death, Bill. I don't, and it's not because of Chris Hemsworth or Mark Ruffalo. It's not because I don't like the characters. This whole vibe that it's given me is not it's not making me happy. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy, I was into it. The trailers, I get into it with the music. It's a good time. I don't know. It's like a whole change of direction. You know what it is? It's literally like Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness. I feel like this Ragnarok thing is like some sort of Army of Darkness. That we've listened to the people, and Dark World was a little bit down and a little bit bland, and so now we're going to spice it up here. It's going a completely a different direction, which I don't want, and I don't feel like it's going to capture from these trailers and poster. I don't feel like it's going to capture the charm of a Flash Gordon, and I don't think it's going to be as great as Guardians of the Galaxy. I do believe that the Hulk and Chris Hemsworth will do their jobs and sell the material that they're given, but I don't have any other faith in the things surrounding them. Oh, by the way, Kate Blanchett looks great. I like that whole idea. I'm just worried about everything else. It just
I disagree with you really strongly on the whole. It doesn't look like Flash Gordon because that's exactly what it reminds me of, and I hope it gives me that because that's what it looks like. It's promising me in the trailers, um, which is campy, crazy, colorful, over the top. I don't dislike the other Thor movies. I don't love the first one. I have to say that Dark World was like a 50% improvement at least over the first one for me. So I did like Dark World better. Um, I don't know that most people feel that way, and I think they did feel like that they needed to go in a different direction with the Thor universe. Look, it's probably the last Thor movie, to be honest, because usually these things run in trilogies. We've still not gotten an Iron Man 4, and Iron Man 3 came out at least 4 years ago. So, as far as them like trying to do something that we haven't, again, this is going to be their 16th movie, and doing something outside of the expected, I think, is important for them to keep showing different sides or different avenues of each film. And this will be sort of like, Spider-Man was sort of like the mentoree, mentee kind of thing with Iron Man and Spider-Man. But this is, I think, their sort of first like buddy movie, if you will, like their Rush Hour or their Lethal Weapon-ish take on shit. And I'm up for it because honestly, one of the coolest interactions in Avengers 1 for me, even though it was very brief, was the interaction between Hulk and Thor. And to see a movie with Hulk and Thor paired up, to me, is intriguing and interesting and looks fun as FULCK. So I'm really looking forward to it.
don't get me wrong. I think what I've always argued with you is that they should be pushing it. I mean, the reason why they got Takiki Wahiti to get on this board is because he seems to be a
Taika
young talent.
Waititi.
And what?
Taika Waititi.
Oh, you with the respect for the people. That's fine. You know what? I was born with a speech impediment.
Oh, stop.
Okay?
Just stop.
So, Tijuana, Tahiti, whatever. Anyway, listen. I mean, they got him for a Hunt for the Wilder People. He was a young gun coming up, so they hired him. I'm a fan of this. You know I am. I want them to come up with new directors um, and new writers to come up and write something that's a little bit more original and pushing the envelope. You can't get too stale. Like a lot of these movies, the Fast and the Furious and the Transformers and Kong, they're just stale, formulaic, paint by number movies. Insert scene, have the actor stand there, look, say a line like, "I don't think we're going to get out of here." It's we've seen this a million times. So I want them to bring in somebody that's going to try something different. Now, what I would argue is that the trailer seems to be giving me something different, and I appreciate it. I don't want to shit on it for being different. I just don't know if I like what they're doing here. I don't want a paint by numbers formula. I appreciate it, but sometimes you fail. And we haven't seen it yet, but I'm just not liking it right now. But I applaud the effort for pushing the envelope. So that's where I'm coming from.
That's fair. I mean,
I mean,
you don't
like
know.
if they started to do a Thor movie where they started to shoot and rape and maim people, I mean, you wouldn't like that, but you
Right, like I said, I mean, you're entitled to your feelings if that's not what it looks like it appeals to you. I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying for me, it does feel like something that I want. Because
I
of my
feel like you're looking at Chris Hemsworth's muscles. That's what I feel like
well,
you're doing. I
that
don't
doesn't
think
hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I'll put that right out there on Front Street. Absolutely. Doesn't hurt. Um, but more than Chris Hemsworth's muscles is the tone. And like I said, if it gives me Flash Gordon, I'm all up in it. So, um, did you see
Bill,
the
can I interrupt you and go with one of my topics?
Sure.
Our boy Mashahali Ali.
Marsha Ali? Yes.
I think you can say these words better because you were an English major.
No, it's because I have the attention span to sound them out, and you just want to say the words and get them out of your mouth as fast as possible. That's the problem.
I feel you're discriminating against me because I have a speech disability and I have
Oh, save it for
ADHD.
somebody who doesn't know you as well as I do, okay?
Okay, well, Ali, apparently, you didn't watch this show on HBO, but they're doing another season of True Detective.
Right. And is he the new lead?
I'm hoping so. They're saying that he's like they got him under contract, so I'm hoping that he will be the lead. I think he. If, I'm assuming if they're putting his name out there, I would argue that like Matt McConaughey before him and what's his name, um, Woody Harrelson,
Yeah.
that was later replaced by Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn. I believe that he will be in that type of role as the main protagonist, which is kind of cool. And I'm hoping that in this True Detective season 3 that we get back to what made the first season so great. You know how I feel about Colin Farrell. I feel like True Detective season T was just so flat. Like it really talk about
And that's
going
Colin
from a
Farrell's fault.
high to a low. I'm hoping they can recapture that in season 3 with Ali.
Do you feel that
So
Colin Farrell's fault that the season was flat?
well, I find that Colin Farrell just is one of those actors that has a lot of talent. He has the look, but he just has never really, he's always getting the parts, but he never really has become a superstar. He's always around the edge. Like, I feel like people want him to be a star and they put him in vehicles, but nothing really ever sits there and hits it out of the stratosphere. Nothing ever becomes a Fast and Furious. It's just not. He's in Total Recall. He's in this. He's in that, and it just never is a big hit for him.
You know when I fell in love with Colin Farrell, when I thought Colin Farrell was just a shiznizzle? When I saw his sex tape. That's when I decided Colin Farrell was for me.
Oh, are you serious? I didn't know that Colin Farrell had a sex tape.
Oh yeah, he's got a sex tape. It's been all over the internet. Where have you been? It was out like 10 years ago. when he's having sex with some kind of model girl. Yeah, it shows
Wow.
everything, and I mean everything. And that's when I said Colin Farrell is okie dokie with me. You really must know. And then, of course, Daredevil didn't hurt because I liked his portrayal of Bullseye. It was certainly more fun than anything in the Netflix show. I can tell you that.
Do we know who released the sex tape? Was it the girl or was it him?
I don't know. I don't think that matters.
Okay. All right. So
Oh, I can tell you who filmed it because it's from his point of view. So he obviously knew about the tape. So I don't know if he made it or what, but
okay.
I'm surprised that you haven't seen this. It was all over the internet, like, I don't know, 8 years ago.
I don't think I've ever got into watching the what is it? What do you call it? The sex tape release. I didn't. The only time I think I've watched one
Please don't
was
tell me it was the
what's her? Is it Paris Hilton?
Oh, gross. Okay.
She did some sort of, it was like a 1 minute thing, and I think you could catch it. I forgot whatever it
You didn't
was.
see the sex
It
tape that
was
made a multi-million-dollar Kardashian empire. You didn't see the sex tape of all sex tapes with Kim Kardashian and Ray J.
no, I didn't really care. I know that seems weird,
Not really.
but I just don't. I'm not really. I rather actually just, you know what? Let's just quite honest. I rather watch porn officially than unofficial porn. I want production values. I want scripts. I want.
Really? So you want the actresses to be like, I didn't order a pizza. I don't know how that came to my house. Oh, did my panties just fall off?
Yeah, yeah.
Really? That's the kind of stuff you're
I
looking for.
want official productions because what you're getting with these sex tapes is you're getting somebody with like a VHS camera. They got some sort of phone. They got bad lighting. Shit's all like the Blair Witch Project with the camera jerking around. Yeah, I don't need to see that type. I'm not interested in that. So I mean,
I
that's I
understand.
want.
We've talked about this before, and this is probably not the best forum for us to be discussing this. But the point is, for me, after a while, you know, once you've seen so many personal body parts smushed up against another personal body part, it all just becomes a bunch of body parts smashed up against body parts. I mean, it just becomes like, okay. So, you
So
know,
what you're saying is you've watched so much porn, you're desensitized to it now.
it's like you and violence. You've watched so many violent video games or played so many violent video games and watched so many violent TV shows. When somebody gets their head chopped off and then a little boy comes down and eats it, you're just like, oh, ho hum. Let me get my tablet. So, yeah, it's sort of like that. But anyway, there's so much more news to get to. I don't know how we got on the subject, but
Okay,
what
all
did you
right.
think
I'm off my
of?
Ali. So I'm very excited about Ali being in True Detective season 3. Okay,
Okay,
back
so
back to the Comic Con.
I don't really watch stuff outside of my genre oeuvre. I would prefer Marshala Ali return to Luke Cage and play some more Cottonmouth for me, honestly, but that's not going to happen.
He should have never been killed off that early.
I
He
know.
was a bright spot in the Luke Cage season.
His head got smashed in by a microphone stand. He won't be coming back, I don't think. But we do have to look forward to the possibility of what was his name?
Oh,
Ironmonger. What was the second guy with
who?
the frying pan on his head? His
Who are
brother,
you talking about?
Luke's brother.
Oh, the guy. What was his name? It was a snake name. Was it Copperhead?
Copperhead or something, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Copperhead.
maybe they can up the budget and give him a better frying pan for his helmet next season.
Yeah. Maybe
And
they could also up the budget and get him some sort of acting lessons. Can they get that Han Solo acting coach? Can they get him to work with him?
wow. Okay, so did you see the Thor Ragnarok poster?
I did.
Did you like it?
How about you tell me if you liked it or not?
I told you I liked it. I loved it. It's very Bollywood. It's very like Flash Gordon, if I have to say it.
Which poster are you referring to?
The one that has all the characters on it and they're like stacked above each other and they have their hands out, sort of like a walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, not a
Or
fan.
swords? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, so Ready Player One also had a
What? Steven Spielberg, Ready Player One?
um of all the trailers that were released for films, I kind of think this one was my least favorite. The concept is very appealing to me, but the trailer just didn't really get me there. I thought it was kind of like, eh.
Are you a fan of the lead actor,
I
Ty
mean,
Sheridan?
yeah, Ty Sheridan was good in the X Men movie. I'm looking forward to him playing, Cyclops in future X Men movies. So I think he's going to be a good little up and comer star. But the narration in this trailer just kind of, I mean, I don't know, just didn't really, I didn't feel it. And maybe this is just,
Did you feel any part of it? Did you?
I mean, the whole idea of them, surviving in a future where, you can go in and plug into like the matrix of video games or whatever, and all of your, childhood movie fantasies can come to life. That's obviously appealing to me. The concept of the film is appealing. I didn't read the book, so I don't know what the whole story is about, but the trailer just felt, it didn't feel as exciting as the subject matter.
Shout out to Superfan Melissa. She was the one that turned me on to Ready Player One. It's not too often I take people's, like suggestions on getting things, but
Yeah.
I remember she gave me the suggestion for Ready Player One, and I voraciously ate that audio book up, and it was enjoyable. I did not take part in Ernest Cline's second book, which I think was called Armada.
Right.
But
Why
Ready
not?
Player One was really enjoyable. And after now seeing the first trailer, the first part of it where he's like walking through the stacks and then puts on his virtual reality equipment, that is exactly how I pictured it from the book. And I was clapping my hands like that looks really great. But where the trailer went a little bit off for me was the second part where we were in the virtual world and all these things were happening. It just seemed like I was inundated with too much and it seemed like it was overproduced. And I don't know if that's what I expected. Maybe I'm wrong and this is what a virtual reality world, it would be just as chaotic. But that caused me a moment of pause. I felt like I was watching some sort of like a first Transformers movie where there's a million things happening and it's going too fast and I wish they would just slow it down. Maybe that's my old age. But I'm still excited for it. And it's Steven Spielberg, right? He's
Yeah,
always good with
Spielberg
these
doing
journeys with these
Spielberg.
children.
It's Spielberg doing Spielbergian shit. Like,
Yeah.
he's got, I think, another movie coming out next year that looks, it's one of his like, war stories or whatever. These are not the Steven Spielberg movies I want Steven Spielberg to be making. Ready Player One is like in the oeuvre that I want to see him do. So, um, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's just that this trailer didn't really do much for me. Doesn't mean I'm
Don't
not
we
going
want
to look
don't we
forward.
want Steven Spielberg to get back to doing some sort of like Indiana Jones type of shit?
Yeah, I do. And hopefully at some point maybe we'll get Indiana Jones 5. I mean, Harrison Ford's like 79, so I don't know what the point would be, but and obviously Shia LaBeouf is continuing to be, thrown in jail. So I don't know where you're going to go with it, but
Uh, poor Shia LaBeouf. Now he's one of those things like what you're talking about. He's going the Robert Downey Jr. route. Lots of talent. Now he's out there in the street, getting causing fights, going to jail. Maybe he needs to get his Iron Man, and then he'll appreciate where what he had once.
intervention or
And
something. But
but anyway,
all right,
some other new.
Kingsman: The Golden Circle had a trailer and a poster, actually several posters released. I have to say, the marketing campaign, the print marketing campaign for this movie, I think is god awfully terrible. All the posters look boring as shit. All they are is like the character standing in a static pose with a word over their character or their body. Depending on the character, it's either a cowboy or a like the word is booted. All the American cowboy characters has the word booted. All the British characters that are like, in the Secret Service says suited. It's just boring as hell and I hate them. But the trailer I really liked a lot. And it was the trailer that I wanted to get from the Golden Circle first trailer, where I felt like it was pretty terrible and I didn't like it at all. This trailer totally turned me around, and now I really, really do like the trailer. And I was going to see the movie anyway. It's Matthew Vaughn. I love the first Kingsman. I just think this one captures the feeling of like fun spy adventure than more than the first one did.
I agree with you. I agree with you. The posters were boring.
They're terrible. I don't know what they're thinking with this marketing campaign. The print campaign is awful.
Um, I'm looking at the booted and suited poster right now. I'm not impressed.
Yeah,
But
none of
what's
this
his
is going
name?
on my wall. I can tell you that. Now, I didn't
But the
the
but the
mark.
trailer in and of itself for me, the first one didn't really bring me in, but the second trailer made the movie look fun as hell.
Yeah, like the first trailer, I didn't really understand that there was like a whole like other Kingsman agency. Like they didn't really explain like what the Cowboys were or anything in that first trailer. But now in this second trailer, I feel like it at least gives me the bones, and I don't feel like it gave away too much of the movie. But it does, let you know that they're going to be in the United States and that there's a United States version of the Kingsmen, and it gave me a little bit more. It oriented me more to what they're actually trying to sell me, which is, those two agencies, I guess, combining or working together or against each other, whatever. I just think it looks fun, and I'm sold. Not that I wasn't sold before, but their trailer didn't do shit for me, and now this one did.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I concur. I mean, I think the first trailer was more than sufficient to tell you where the story was going, but whatever. Hey. Um,
Um,
it looks a lot cooler. Wait. I got some news here, my friend.
okay,
Slow your roll. Slow your fucking roll.
okay. We have a lot to cover, so I was just trying to keep going.
Oh, are you? Well, I know you are not rushing on our anniversary show. I know you are
Yes,
not
we have
rushing.
a lot to get to. That's all.
Do you have to go to work tomorrow?
No, but tomorrow is my actually last day. We're not going to talk about it because it'll depress me. But so anyway,
If anybody that needs to get shit done, it's the one over here, okay?
okay.
I looked at my nephew, by the way. He was over here, and I was like, "Do you use deodorant?"
Really, really, are you
Because
really
he's
talking about this on air?
he, he's that young boy right now, and so he's got that young boy funk, and so he told me he does use it, and I'm like, I need you to start like smearing that shit on.
Did you clean the
Uh,
shower after him, like I asked you to?
Listen,
Did you?
you know how people feel about my shower here. It's like they rather just
I
walk around.
But you can only do so much with what you have to work with, and soap doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Okay, poor people can afford soap. It's like 50 cents at the dollar store.
Listen, the shower was clean. The
Okay, that's all
kid
I
is
ask.
still.
That's all I need you to do. As long
You
as
know
you.
what it is. It's like with the brushing the teeth. It's the whole thing. You're sitting there going, you're waiting for them to move out of this phase where they get some sort of significant other, and then all of a sudden they start dressing themselves up more. But right now, I feel like when he comes up to Uncle Payne's house over here for the weekend, I feel like it's one of those things like he's just putting in the time, and then he's going to get back to his palatial state, and then he'll sit there and get in his hot tub and then relax. He's just like slumming it when he comes up here.
Okay,
Um,
I'm sorry if he's listening to this, Nate. I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with your uncle. I really don't.
anyway, so by the way, it's going back for me, going back to HBO because they're one of my favorite TV channels.
Yeah.
You know the creators, if you will, loosely, David Benoff and DB Weiss of Game of Thrones. They're teaming up with Nichelle Tramble Spellman and Malcolm Spellman, and they announced that they're going to be doing this new series called Confederate. So Confederate
Twitter
is the
campaign, right?
show apparently that will follow characters um, on both sides of the Mason-Dixon line, if you will, and it's an alternate world in which the South won. I guess that's a way to
The
sum it
Civil War,
up.
obviously.
Uh huh. Now, when this first broke, I thought about this and I felt a certain way about it. Like I just don't, I watched The Man in the High Castle,
Yeah.
and I love that show. Have no problem with alternate universes. One of the best comic books out there was Age of Apocalypse, X-Men World. One of the best stories ever, alternate timeline. Germans winning alternate timeline, very cool to me. Got no trouble. I'm a fan of alternate timelines. But this one right here, I don't know if it's because it's me or it's because the state of affairs that we're in now. I not really a fan of this whole idea whatsoever. And then the point of this is apparently HBO, because I was sitting there thinking, I don't know if I want to watch a series where I'm watching slave owners, beat people down, rape, and brutalize them. Like, that doesn't seem like a good time for me. I don't want to watch that. And apparently, the executives of HBO just came out um, on July 26th and made a statement that maybe they did a poor job of releasing the information regarding Confederate, and they got a lot of like backlash from people, and that it's not what we think it's going to be. Like it's here. This is their description with it will follow characters on both sides of the Mason-Dixon demilitarized. Say a word for me.
Demilitarized?
Zone. Freedom fighters, slave hunters, politicians, abolitionists, journalists, executives of a slave-holding conglomerate, and families of people in the thrall. They will not depict slavery in a stereotypical manner. The producers say they're not going to do a Gone with the Wind 2017. It's not the whips and plantation. What they envision is what a modern day version of slavery would look like.
You heard about the Twitter campaign, right?
I did not hear about the Twitter campaign.
Well, there's a Twitter campaign. I forget what the hashtag is, but people are trying to get them to cancel the show before it's even.
See, this is where you're talking about being loyal to like the creators, like Game of Thrones. Benioff and Weiss, I think they did a good job of what do you got? Transferring this, pages in a book to the screen. And I would like to follow them. They're sort of like back in the day, Buffy and Angel, Joss Whedon's people, how they all broke out into different things.
What show did they do?
Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss.
Okay.
So I mean, I would follow them to like to do something else, but I mean, this is sort of like it's nuclear material. It seems it's very sensitive. This one is almost too close to home. But I would like to see it, but I just don't know. I don't know, and
Listen, I mean, you're always screaming at me about being an old man, yelling at kids, get off my yard. And the older I get, the more conservative I become, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to dispute that back with you. I think it's pretty much accurate. Um, but you're talking about an industry that's doing everything it can to push the boundaries to sort of keep people tuning in because there's so many other things that people are distracted by. And, again, one of those things of pushing forward is controversy. I mean, because it's controversial doesn't mean it shouldn't be made, I think. Now, whether or not I choose to watch it is up to me. That's my choice. Because it's out there doesn't mean I have to watch it. Like 90% of the other TV shows that are out there, I don't watch. But the idea that it should be censored or that it's too touchy of a subject for us to bring to the screen, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if, just on face value that that's a reason for something not to get made, because then you're going to end up with exactly in the place that you're always saying you don't want to end up with 90% of television being copycatted or repeated or rebooted or whatever, and nothing becomes original and different. I certainly have never seen a show in which the Civil War had turned out differently and slavery is, the law of the land. It certainly sounds like a unique and different concept.
Well,
It's
you
not
know
something
what?
I would ever watch. So
This is America, Bill, and you're right. I'm not arguing that it should be censored. You're right. I'm not one for the censorship, and if they want to do it, I guess for myself as a individual consumer, I don't know if this is something I would consume. I'm not saying they shouldn't make it if that's what they want to do. If they can get the funds for it and the support for it, that's fine. I just don't know if I can go down that path as a consumer. I do look forward to watching the Nielsen ratings as the show Confederate comes out, and they say that um, white males from the ages of 8 to 62 are watching this in huge blocks.
ratings
And
don't matter for
it
HBO. It's
seems to
really
be a
about
real big hit in the South.
wow. Um, I would think as somebody who's a fan of something like Game of Thrones, even though you're kind of off of its jock at the moment, um, that you would probably give them the benefit of the doubt or try and see, excuse me, where where they would take you.
Oh, they'll get it. They'll get me to watch the first trailer. And you know what? I
Trailers,
can't even talk.
you do really have to watch the first episode. Trailers are deceptive. They are. They're just not. I find them not to be completely honest.
By the way, we're moving on, but that reminds me. Have you heard of this show on Netflix called The 13 Reasons Why?
I have. We've discussed it at my office quite often because a lot of the women I work with have teenage daughters.
Are you okay over there? Are you having some sort of
Choking on my
episode?
own saliva. Can you hold on a second?
Anyway, while I'm holding on, I'll explain why I'm mentioning 13 Reasons Why is because my nephew was up and he was telling me about shows that he may have saw or watched or was into, and one of them was 13 Reasons Why.
I just think,
And
the concept is so I don't want to be censorship about it or censoring about it. But man, it sure sounds like something I wouldn't watch. I mean, but that doesn't take much. So it just sounds like a double dose of Debbie Downer.
well,
I don't know why anyone would
let's
watch.
listen. I'm with you on that. He explained it to me. So the girl commits suicide and she leaves like 13 tapes back of all the people that did her wrong.
Right. And all of the people are responsible for her committing suicide in her mind.
Right.
Yes.
And one of the people raped her. Actually, is that you heard that too?
Yes.
Yeah, he wouldn't tell me how it ends, and I told him, I go, I don't need you to tell me how it ends. I'll just look up on Wikipedia. I go, I'm not going to watch the show, but
It sounds like no fun zone. I don't know.
well,
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it even existing. But again, I'm too old for this stuff, I guess.
well,
But
I think this is our limit. I think 13 Reasons Why seems to be a line for us, and I'm all up for the violence. You know me, I'm Clockwork Orange. Give me the ultra violence and stuff. I'm fine with it. But this here, once again, it just doesn't sound of. I mean, there's going to be an episode of a girl that's dead, and she's going to be going over the people that did her wrong. Maybe I need to find more about it. Maybe I'm coming from a place of ignorance. Um, but you're right. This doesn't sound like a good time for me.
I I just don't. I don't like the concept. I think there's so many other stories that could be told with the amount of money and time that they're spending on this show. And that could be much more positive and much more inspirational. I don't really see any goodness that's coming out of this show existing as a concept. I don't understand why it needs to exist. We all know that kids get bullied and picked on. We all know, that high school sucks. We all know, kids are assholes. What is the inspiration for, in fact, I think people have said, some people have said that their children have committed suicide based on watching this show. I don't know.
Guess what?
What?
I dragged out a old washing machine onto my tree lawn, and some garbage pickers just came along and picked it up.
What old washing machine did you have?
It's in the garage. I don't think you've really gone into my garage.
No, that frightens me. But what's more scary is why was it in there?
Well, because it broke, and then I dragged it out and I put it in there. It's just been sitting in there.
How long has
Sort of
it
like
been
it's,
in there?
I don't know, probably at least a couple years.
And why didn't you just drag it onto your lawn before now?
I don't know.
Oh,
I have so much room because my garage is so big. It wasn't really bothering anything.
oh my God.
I'm over here cleaning up things now, Bill. So I'm trying to remove the clutter. That's why I decided to take it out
Thank
there
God.
now.
Thank God.
In fact, I actually had my nephew work in the garage. I told him he actually took it a little bit harsh because I said he had no work ethic. Kids of his generation have no work ethic. And I put him in the garage and made him move stuff around while he was wearing flip-flops.
Why did you make him do that?
Because I feel like this is what he needs to do. It's not all about fun and games and watching movies and playing video games. You got to do some work. So I said we'd do some work for a couple hours, and then we would reward ourselves with a little bit of Chinese food and a movie.
So let me get this right. On his visit to go see Uncle Jay, in which he does once or twice a year, instead of just hanging out and chilling out and being bros, you have him working in the garage doing some shit you should have done 2 years ago. Feel like doing, and then
Yeah.
you want to know why sometimes he's like, "I'm ready to go home." Really.
That is very true. He was looking at me cross-eyed, by the way, for that. Um,
Okay.
you know, he's not at the phase yet where he's going to look at me and be like, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that, Uncle Jay." He's not
Yeah.
at that phase yet. Right now,
He's got two sets of parents that make him do shit he doesn't want to do, right? Right? You know that, right? So you
I
can't just
guess.
do
You know what?
Uncle.
I don't know what they do down in that household. They're a bunch of tree huggers down there. Who knows what they're doing? Maybe they're doing some sort of like parental by like writing emails or some shit. I don't know. I
They're
don't
fucking
know.
saving the ozone and creating range-free chicken eggs and all kinds of weird ass shit no one fucking understands. That's what they're doing over there. He's like, "Can I just get like a fucking white egg from, Giant Eagle? Can I just have a from Giant Eagle?" Nope, we gotta wait for the chicken to hatch. Okay, so
All right, moving on. All right, back to the San Diego Comic Con. Drop it.
okay, so we covered Justice League, Thor Ragnarok, Ready Player One, Kingsman: The Golden Circle, Stranger Things had a trailer and a poster.
Yes. Stranger Things. I know that's one of your favorite Netflix shows.
I watch it. I will watch season 2. It comes out on Halloween, which I find is a perfect timing for me because I like to watch spooky shit or scary shit at Halloween time. It looks good-ish. I mean, I didn't love the first season. It's okay. It feels a little bit like highlights of all the '80s things I loved, which would sound like it would be more exciting, but I just didn't love it.
You're just not a fan of some of the characters on Stranger Things, which I think holds back from you fully embracing the material.
No, I also find it to be stodgy and a little stiff and not as intriguing as it seems like people thought it was. But, this could just be me yinging when people yang. I'm not going to dispute that either. Did you love season 1 of Stranger Things? I think you liked it, but did you really think it was the cat's meow?
The cat's meow might be a little bit strong, but I like the I felt like it was a um, a shout back to days when I was a child.
Sure.
Shit I watched on television. It took me back there, and it's sort of like watching the Goonies or Close Encounters of the Third Kind or Beastmaster, whatever it is. It took me back to that time, and it just seemed somewhat original in today's TV shows. And the fact that we're going to get a continuation of that, I think it's only going to get better. I mean, I think it's
I
the
hope you're right.
first entry into this world where you don't know if it's going to be a hit or not, and now they get to do a little bit more and craft it up. So, and I find the characters fit perfectly. They fit perfectly for the material.
It's very reminiscent of, if I had to pick one movie, it reminded me of Stand By Me, maybe.
Okay.
Relationship with the kids. The kids, I think, were all great little actors. I just, like I said, I found it somewhat derivative.
Now,
Uh,
can we draw a comparison here between another trailer that came out at Comic Con was what's it called? Gifted?
oh yeah, The Gifted, the X-Men show. Yes.
Right. Now, if I draw like the parallels between the two, when I look at Gifted, I watched a trailer before we started this podcast that came out at Comic Con, which is what is Brian Singer directing the first episode or a few more than one?
Pilot.
I didn't hear you.
He's directing the pilot. Yes.
Okay. Um, when I look at that one, I sat there and go, what type of it just you talk about derivative and unoriginal. Let me get this straight again. We're going back to some kids once again being bullied in school, and we're going with the blonde girl who has the powers in the school, saves her brother in the shower from bullies. And we're going back to save the cheerleader, save the world crap again, and all the other people around them happen to look like they came out of some sort of Abercrombie Fitch model catalog again. I mean, I just sat there and go, just really, this is what you're giving me. I got this X-Men movie like from X-Men 1 and 2. I got it over a decade ago. It's the same thing, but in TV form. It's no longer like nail biting. It's no more like I get the analogies. I'm being treated different. And no, you're not. You're just like everybody. We've gone over this territory. At least with Stranger Things, I'm getting something that's not the traditional here. These kids aren't supermodels. It's a little bit of a different take on it. No offense to them, but the Gifted trailer just gives me more of nothing except
Well, I'm
Zach
not going to say I
Efron's
love the
running
Gifted
around.
movie either. I like the concept of the Gifted story. I like the X-Men universe. So, as far as wanting to see more of it, yeah, I'm all for it. I do want to see more of the X-Men universe. To me, it's like in the scene in X-Men 2, I think it is, when they go back to Bobby's house, Iceman's house,
Exactly.
parents are there. But this is a story like if the parents were cool and not assholes and decided to try to protect Bobby and like make take him on the run or something. It seems like maybe a side story of one of the X-Men movies which explores a different avenue necessarily than what we saw in the movie. Same themes and same concept, obviously, but maybe in a different way they'll explore those themes a little bit that we have.
Yeah, but the characters themselves just look like some sort of like standard characters.
Well, I
I
don't
mean,
mind
after all
supermodels in
this
my
time,
TV
we're
shows.
still doing the kid bullied in the shower type of thing
Well,
who's
Jay, that's
weak.
a
I
universal.
mean,
That's a universal
honestly,
story.
Bill, it's come on, come on.
That's a universal story. There are kids that have never seen an X-Men movie, like probably your nephew's age or younger, that those stories still speak. Those are, I mean, they did X-Men comic books for 40 years on those same stories, Jay. Okay. So, yeah, it's not original, but it's timeless as far as the themes and how people can identify with those types of things in life. It's not to say that they'll handle it in an original or unique way, which is important, but that trailer, I agree, doesn't sell me on the show. That show, as a concept, has me sold. I'll see if they deliver. If they don't, I'll tune out. But I'm going to give it a shot because I do like the X Men universe. Hello? 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 Hello?